How competition has made us suspicious of each other. You have grown up in a system which promotes the idea that only the fittest survive. It has been built into your psyche. The survival of the fittest, the winner takes all, the first past the post. In this kind of system, virtually everyone can be classed as a loser, which doesn't give you a very healthy perspective on life. It creates exclusiveness and elitism, and in the extreme can lead to wars that plague our world. Interesting, the latest research has discovered that it is actually the cooperators who are most likely to survive. This perspective is inclusive and allows everyone to be a winner. It also opens up the desire to help others to succeed and thrive. When you are given the opportunity to reach for your highest potential, then everyone can benefit. Unfortunately, you have been living with the first perspective and as a result have virtually given up hope in many areas of your life. It is never too late to make a change and realize that you have a choice in the direction you are heading in. All you need is the tools that will make the transition easy to understand. The first thing to realize is that there are probably millions and millions of people across the planet who want to live in a peaceful paradise where there is plenty for all and everyone has the opportunity to reach their full potential. You desire that, and there are many others who are very like you. The second thing to realize is that there is a very powerful network on this planet that is working very hard to convince you that you should be afraid of others. This network achieves that by making you believe you are different to others in some way. We are all, in fact, much more like each other than not, and you have discovered this to be true through your relatively recent ability to travel anywhere in the world. You have had first-hand experience of the friendliness of others and have found that in many ways people of another culture are very much like you. This makes the job of keeping you suspicious of others much more difficult. Hence, the proliferation of negative media you are bombarded with on a daily basis. The manipulation of the world's population through fear has been in operation throughout the history of humanity. It started a long time before you were born, which is why you are so used to it. This is the way it has always been. When a situation has been promoted as the way it is, you have little reason to doubt it. However, you are starting to realize that the world isn't the way you have been told it is. Most of the people in the world are family orientated and as such prefer peaceful harmony over violent chaos. There is huge monetary gain to be made by keeping people afraid of each other, weak and prone to illness. The two largest benefactors of the current system of fear and ignorance are the arms manufacturers and the big pharmaceutical companies. You have been systematically conditioned into accepting the unacceptable. Think back to the first few statements and remind yourself of what is still unacceptable in the world that you live in. You live in a world where some highly vocal members of each of the major religions sees themselves as right and the others as wrong, as either infidels or the axis of evil, dependent upon which side you are standing, which leads you to believe that something is not quite right with them. It doesn't matter how you look at it, it can only amount to I'm right, you're wrong, which is bound to lead to a fight. It reminds me of the playground with kids taunting each other with, my dad's better than your dad. That always ended up in a fight too. This, of course, is what is happening all over the world today. When politicians and leaders choose to use their belief in God or Allah to justify their violent attacks on ordinary men, women and children, does that sit well with you? Does your God really condone this kind of behaviour? Are we not all children of the same God? You need to wake up to the divide and conquer mentality that has been perpetrated throughout the whole world, because until you realise that you have been set up to be against others, you will continue to be manipulated. Imagine if fear was wiped out of the human psyche. Unfortunately, I doubt that you can. Can you see that you have been deeply conditioned to live with the multiple aspects of fear as constant companions? Don't for one moment imagine that fear is a healthy defence mechanism, because it is not. You have your instincts to keep you safe if you can become aware enough to access them. So you don't need fear, because fear is the single most damaging emotion which has been systematically indoctrinated into your psyche to keep you from discovering how powerful you really are. I will return to this theme throughout this book because I want you to deeply understand how vitally important this message is. You have been led to believe that others are different to us in some way, whichever us you happen to be. Rather than looking at the differences, which are really only differences of perception, realise that you are actually very like others in most ways. You have so much in common with others because first and foremost you are a human being, no matter what your skin colour or your religion. You didn't have a choice about which cultural group you were born into. You just had to make the best of where you found yourself in whatever way you were able to. What is important to realise, though, is that within you there is direct access to the most exciting and informative resource imaginable, and that is your own life. The one thing that you have in common with everyone else is underneath all illogical religious differences, you are, first of all, a human being. Therefore, you have the inbuilt capacity to perceive what it must be like to be another, which means that you have the inbuilt capacity for empathy. If empathy became a guiding emotion in your world, rather than the fear that currently dominates it, then you would never want anyone else to be tortured, maimed, or killed, because you can imagine what it felt like to be attacked in that way and couldn't bear the thought that anyone else, no matter who, could be made to suffer in any way. My purpose in writing this book is to encapsulate the essence of how to move from the dark into the light, from fear and chaos to responsiveness and bliss. I have discovered that there are, without doubt, many layers that have been applied to your life that have the unfortunate outcome of ensuring that it is highly unlikely that you will ever come close to achieving your full potential and much more likely that you will live a life of quiet desperation, stress, and ill health, unless you become aware of this. You will discover that what you have come to accept as the human condition is nothing of the sort. It is something that has been conditioned into your psyche, albeit inadvertently in most circumstances. You live in a world where it has become acceptable, indeed it is to be expected, that you will live with an element of stress. This has many faces, ranging from fear of failure, through not being good enough, right down to the depths of hopelessness, loneliness, and depression. You have been led to believe that as you get older, you will succumb to age-related illness, such as high blood pressure and heart problems, type 2 diabetes, and an increasing waistline. It does not have to be this way. There are alternative ways of approaching life that can have a profound impact on how you feel, and how you feel can have a profound effect on your life. Throughout this book you will discover the gems that have worked for me and for countless others. Through putting what made sense into action, it proved to be true for me. However, don't believe anything that I tell you. Instead, try it out and see for yourself if it works. There is nothing more convincing than experience. You don't need faith or willpower, just a desire to have more joy, health, and happiness in your life, and a commitment to applying what you find works for you into your daily routine. Is there a niggling feeling that you have serious doubts whether it can be so for you? I too was riddled with self-doubt for many years. Funnily enough, no matter how successful people are, most of them are riddled with the same fears as the rest of us. That is what is known as the human condition. This book exists because I am inspired to help you to wake up to the realization that it is never too late to make a change. Change is the constant in the natural world. If you can embrace it and see it as a voyage of discovery, you will arrive at the moment when you realize that your greatest power is the power of choice. You will discover that your self-defeating attitudes have been indoctrinated into you from a very young age, so that it has the appearance of "that's just the way it is." You will find new ways of approaching relationships that lead to deeper understanding and more intimacy. You will find out that foods you eat out of habit may very well be causing you health issues. You will have access to leading-edge information that has the power to reverse most common health issues, boost a flagging immune system, and provide boundless energy. I will introduce you to a couple of do-it-yourself internal cleansing activities that will astound you with their ability to improve the way you feel. There are introductions to simple methods that have a deep impact and insights into different ways of perceiving that can catapult you directly into the flow of the creative principle. You will also discover why and how it is difficult to maintain that euphoria for any length of time and how to regain it rapidly. Before you dive straight in, let me take a moment to introduce myself.